Welcome to this new automotive news video for Tuesday, March 10, 2026. And today we're going to talk a lot about Renault because this morning, François Provost, the director of the Renault Group, revealed the group's strategy for the next 5 years. A plan called Future Ready, which I will detail for you today in this video. We'll discuss Renault's plan to end combustion engine production by 2035 years ahead of the European Commission's requirement, and its new 4x4, the Renault Bridger. We'll also cover Dacia, part of the Renault Group, which used this conference to reveal its new Striker. A family SUV wagon sold for less than 25,000 euros, but also about the arrival of new electric models at Dacia. And finally, we'll talk about Alpine, another brand of the Renault Group, which is currently undergoing a complete strategic turnaround, since in the end, its new A110, which was supposed to be 100% electric, will finally be offered with a combustion engine. So today, it's 100% Renault. I hope you'll find the video interesting. If that's the case, as usual, I'm counting on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for future videos, and boosting this one. If the option appears for you, that's really the most important thing to boost my channel's ranking. And you can leave a comment to share your opinion on Renault's strategy. Do you think the group is making good choices or heading for disaster? So today, it's all about Renault, as I mentioned. We're going to talk about the Future Plan Ready, which was announced this morning, a plan that is crucial for the Renault Group, because let's remember that Renault, even if it's not the French or European car maker that's most at risk, the Renault Group has lost half of its value in 2 years. So this plan is really crucial for Renault, both for its industrial side, since it defines the future models that will be produced in Renault's factories, but it's also important for the financial aspect, since it was supposed to reassure investors about a potential rebound in the company's stock market value. Investors who, at the moment, at least as I'm making this video, which is Tuesday at noon, don't seem to have really been convinced by this plan. Because while we might have hoped for an almost immediate rebound in Renault's stock price, for now it has dropped by 0.11%. It's not a huge drop, but it doesn't exactly show a sense of satisfaction from the shareholders either. So now that we've said that, what's actually in this plan? Well, let's see. Quite a few new things, like the arrival within the group by 2030 of 36 new models, which will be distributed among Renault, Dacia, and Alpine. Among these 36 models, 22 will be intended for the European market, so as you can see, 14 are meant for the international market. But also different markets in South America. These are markets where Renault hopes to offset some of the losses linked to the current European automotive crisis. Renault's goal is to sell 2 million cars per year by 2030, with half of them outside Europe. That's a 50-50 split, while currently Europe accounts for 62% of its sales. So Renault is trying to rebalance things to reduce its dependence on Europe, given the European market's poor condition and unlikely short-term improvement. So 22 models are planned for Europe, including 14 fully electric models. A lot of electric vehicles because Renault simply plans to abandon fully gasoline-powered cars by 2030. So there's one thing that needs to be clearly understood. I've seen a lot of media, whether newspapers or websites, or even on TV, where things got a bit mixed up. Renault absolutely did not announce that it wants to become 100% electric by 2030. They know that's strictly impossible. On the other hand, they want to become 100% electrified, which means that by 2030, they will only sell 100% electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, potentially no plug-in hybrids, since the director of Renault believes that plug-in hybrids are not very interesting for their customers, but also range extender vehicles, which are actually hybrid vehicles. Renault wants to become a 100% electrified brand starting in 2030, hoping that by 2030, at least 50% of its cars sold will be fully electric. This goal is not the same everywhere, since outside Europe, the objective is to reach 50% electrified sales by 2030. By then, there will still be 50% of vehicles with fully combustion engines. Interestingly enough, many media outlets have presented this goal as a step forward toward full electrification. But in reality, it's a step backward, because in 2021, the former Renault boss had announced that Renault would be 100% electric, not just 100% electrified by 2030. So this plan is actually less ambitious, since all the manufacturers are realizing that the demand for electric cars in Europe is lower than expected. And since the European Commission has slightly relaxed the targets for electric car sales, European manufacturers can afford to keep selling vehicles equipped with combustion engines, even if they're electrified. During this conference, several new models were presented, such as the Renault Bridger, which is a small 4x4 that will be 3.99 meters long, which has a boxy style that, personally, reminds me of a mix between a Suzuki Jimny and a Kia. It promises 400 liters of trunk space, a fairly spacious interior, with at least 20 centimeters of space for people in the back. That's more than some models that are actually longer than this one. Production is set for 2027. It will first be sold in India, then later in other regions of the world. Unfortunately, we won't have it in Europe, since the European Commission imposes much stricter standards, which is a real shame. Because I think this vehicle, with its design and the fact that it's compact, is probably not too expensive. Especially thanks to versions equipped with combustion engines, it could sell really, really well. So speaking of engines, let me tell you what we actually have. Or rather, what we won't have. So in Europe, the Bridger will be equipped with several engines, including a 100% electric version with a 35 or 55 kilowatt-hour battery. The range hasn't been announced yet, but it's expected to be 200 to 400 kilometers, depending on the battery. There will also be a hybrid version that will use the engine from the Renault Duster and should have around 160 horsepower, and a pure gasoline engine version, 1 liter, 3 cylinders, as the entry-level option. Dacia was also present, taking advantage of this conference to reveal its new Striker. It will be a family-oriented vehicle, half station wagon, half SUV, and it will still be 4.62 meters long. It's the largest model ever offered by Dacia. It will be based on the CMF-B platform, which is the platform for the Sandero, Jogger, and Duster. It will be offered with several engines and several transmissions. As for the engine, we should find the 1.8 hybrid with 155 horsepower, which is also found on the Bigster, as well as the Eco-G engines from Dacia. These are LPG engines that produce between 120 and 150 horsepower. Quite interestingly, this Striker will be available either with front-wheel drive or with four-wheel drive. Its entry-level price is announced to be around 25,000 euros, which is quite close to that of the Bigster, for example, which it could actually compete with. Dacia is going to be one of the cornerstones of Renault's new plan, since Francois Provost, the CEO of the group, believes that Dacia will be able to achieve a third of its sales. Below the C segment, thanks to the duo formed by the Bigster and the Striker. The C segment refers to cars that are between 4.20 and 4.70 meters long. In general, Dacia also plans to go from offering one electric vehicle in its lineup to 4 by 2030 today. There is only the Spring. We know that in a little while, the 100% electric version of the Sandero will arrive in 2027, and it should also be offered. The Hipster, which is that thing that looks like a fridge on wheels, will be 100% electric. We don't know the exact specs yet, but we know it might turn out to be quite a dud. At the same time, as you may have guessed, it will continue to focus on combustion and hybrid engines, especially relying on LPG, of which it is simply the leader in Europe. Dacia's goal is a bit different from Renault's. As I mentioned, Renault aims for 100% electrified sales by 2030. For Dacia, it's 60%. And finally, there's Alpine, and there are some changes. Since the future A110 was supposed to be 100% electric, that's actually not the case. It will still be developed on the APP, the Alpine Performance Platform. Alpine has announced there will be at least 4 versions of the future A110. Notably, the return of sportier, more radical versions like the A110 Ara model that will likely be launched only as a 100% electric car. But Renault and Alpine know very well that the electric sports car, for now, it's a market that doesn't exist and doesn't attract crowds. So far, the brands that have tried this exercise haven't really managed to find a satisfying compromise. Even major players in motorsports like Porsche haven't managed to develop a 100% electric version of the future Cayman or Boxster that is both lightweight, high-performing, and has the same range as a combustion engine car. In fact, Porsche has abandoned this 100% electric version. It's a market that's extremely risky. That's why Alpine confirmed that this new platform was designed to be able to accommodate a combustion engine on the A110, which means, as you may have guessed, that at first Alpine will try to sell the 100% electric A110, but if it doesn't sell, there's a very good chance that after a few months or a few years, a version with a combustion engine, probably a hybrid, will eventually come out to save the day. The electric version will be based on an 800-volt architecture, and its technical implementation includes 2 separate batteries, one in the front and one in the rear, in order to maintain a 40-60 weight distribution and, above all, to preserve the traditional silhouette of the Berlinette. Interestingly enough, it will come standard with all-wheel drive. So, between the batteries and the all-wheel drive system, we should expect this car to remain much heavier than the current gasoline-powered Ascendies. Renault also took advantage of this conference to unveil its new electric platform called RGEV Medium 2.0, which will be intended for vehicles in the B and AD segments. So, let's say from large compacts to road sedans. It will be based on an 800-volt electric platform and will allow ultra-fast charging. According to Renault, the models based on this platform will be able to reach up to 750 kilometers of range in 100% electric mode, or 1,400 kilometers with the range extender versions, the famous onboard thermal generator units. On this platform, Renault should be working with both LFP batteries and NMC batteries. Many of Renault's future electric and hybrid models will use this platform. Interestingly, Renault plans to develop these new models in under 2 years. That's the goal they've set to try to compete with Chinese brands, which are much faster at developing a vehicle. Faster development for future models, models that will be made up of 30% fewer parts. Now, that doesn't mean the cars are 30% smaller. Simply, there will be fewer cutouts, fewer different parts, which is great for manufacturers, but generally extremely annoying for consumers. Because when something goes wrong, sometimes you have to replace an entire module instead of just a single part. Renault will also use more robots, including 350 humanoid robots in some factories. Different measures that should allow Renault, according to its calculations, to reduce by 40% the investments needed to develop new models, and to save an average of €400 per vehicle produced. That's the big Renault plan to try to become one of the biggest European manufacturers. We'll see if it works or not. We'll see if Renault has to make adjustments in the coming years regarding these different objectives. In any case, I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, I'm counting on you to show it. As usual, leave a like and subscribe for the next videos, and why not, click on the join button below this video. See you tomorrow for the next Act 2 Ciao video.